All right, we're going to talk about Boyle's law. Boyle's law states that there's an inverse relationship between the pressure and volume of a gas in a container. So what that means is that at constant temperature, so unchanging temperature, and at constant moles, this is abbreviated as an N, so we have temperature as T, N as moles, then pressure times volume is going to equal a constant. So we can use this in a little bit. We'll talk about how we can change, the volume and then predict how the pressure is going to change given a constant temperature in moles for a gas. And we'll look at that here in a minute. But the way we interpret this is that there is an inverse relationship between the pressure and the volume. So if pressure times volume equals a constant, we can predict what would happen to the pressure if we change the volume, for example. So in a situation, this is sort of an example to think about, if there's a decrease in the volume, then what's going to happen to the pressure? Well, because it's an inverse relationship, if we decrease the volume, then the pressure must increase. So there's an increase in the pressure. If we increased the volume, then well, you might predict this already, it must be the opposite, right? So there's going to be a drop in pressure. And that should make sense because when we multiply the volume times the pressure, it has to equal a constant. So if one is going up, the other one must be going down if you're still going to equal that constant. All right, so let's look at an application of this mathematically. Well, this is overall stated as P1 V1 equals P2 V2. We know that this is equal to a constant. Okay, so we already said that right here. So pressure times volume is going to equal that constant. Boyle's law is written mathematically like this, and this is what we're going to use to solve problems. What this is saying is that you can take one instance of pressure and volume and compare it to another instance of pressure and volume and multiply those together. That product is going to equal the same value for this gas that we're looking at. Okay, so let's look at an example. Let's say that we have 35 liters of a gas and its pressure is 1.5 atmospheres. Now this is our starting, so we're going to label this as P1 V1 as our initial pressure, initial volume. And then let's say that we compress this to a volume of 1.75 liters. And we want to know what is the pressure now. So we can use this right here, Boyle's law, to calculate that pressure. I'm going to set it up and do the algebra first, and then we'll plug the numbers in. So P1 V1 equals P2 V2. To get this by itself, we're going to divide both sides by V2. So that'll cancel this out. And I can rewrite this now as P2 is equal to P1 times V1 divided by V2. At this point, I'm ready to plug my numbers in, and so I'm going to do that. So my P1 is 1.50 atmospheres. My V1 is 35 liters, and I'm going to divide this by V2, which is 1.75 liters. I'm going to do the calculation and find out that P2 is equal to 30.0 atmospheres. We need to ask ourselves, does this make sense? Before we finalize it, let's see. I started out with 35 liters. I decreased the volume to 1.75 liters. So if I'm decreasing the volume, that means the pressure should be going up. And is that what I see? It goes from 1.5 to 30. So yeah, I feel good about this answer. And that's it. That's how you use Boyle's law to calculate, to predict a pressure or volume after a change.